The world doesn't reward the smartest people. It doesn't reward the most talented. And it definitely doesn't reward the most honest. It rewards those who understand influence. Every day, decisions are being made around you. Who gets promoted? Who gets listened to? Who gets opportunities? Who gets ignored? And most people think those decisions are fair. They're not. They're shaped by perception, by psychology, by influence. The uncomfortable truth is this: if you don't know how to influence, you will be influenced. You can work harder than everyone else and still lose. You can be more skilled and still be overlooked. You can be right and still be ignored. Because the world doesn't move based on truth, it moves based on who controls the narrative. And once you understand that, you stop asking why the system is unfair and start learning how the system actually works. This video is not about manipulation, it's about reality. It's about the strategies powerful people use every day, often without you even noticing. And once you see them, you can never unsee them. Most people grow up believing one simple lie: if you work hard, stay honest, and do good work, the world will eventually reward you. But reality plays by different rules. Look around. The loudest voice often wins. The most visible person gets promoted. The one who controls attention controls outcomes. And this isn't because the world is broken. It's because influence has always been the real currency. Inside the book, How to Influence the World, you discover a truth most people never learn: that success is rarely about talent alone, and almost always about perception, positioning, and psychology. Influence is not about power, it's not about authority, and it's not about being aggressive. It's about understanding how people think. How do they decide? How do they follow? And how they resist. Most people never study this. They assume influence is something you're born with: charisma, presence, leadership energy. But the book makes one thing clear: influence is a skill. And like any skill, it can be learned. If you want to understand how ideas spread, why people follow certain voices, and how decisions are really made, subscribe to this channel. Here, we break down the most powerful books ever written on influence, power, psychology, money, and human behavior, so you can see the patterns behind how the world actually works. And stay with me until the end, because I'll show you one influence mistake that quietly destroys intelligent people, even when they think they're doing everything right. Once you understand the patterns behind attention, trust, status, and persuasion, you stop reacting to the world and start shaping it. And that's where everything changes. Because the moment you understand influence, you're no longer at the mercy of stronger voices. You become one. Influence is the invisible force behind everything. Influence is happening around you all the time. Not loudly, not aggressively, but quietly. It decides whose ideas are taken seriously, whose mistakes are forgiven, who gets opportunities, and who gets ignored. Most people think influence is something you use. In reality, it's something that's already being used on you. Every headline you believe, every opinion you adopt, every decision you justify, every authority you follow, none of it is accidental. Influence works because humans are predictable. We respond to status. We follow confidence. We trust familiarity. We copy behavior that feels safe and accepted. And the book makes one uncomfortable point very clear. If you don't understand these mechanisms, you don't opt out of them. You become subject to them. That's why smart people lose to confident people. Why skilled professionals get overlooked by louder ones. Why good ideas die while average ideas spread. Influence is not about lying. It's not about manipulation. It's about understanding how the human mind works in social systems. Once you see this, you stop asking, why do they listen to him? Why does she get all the attention? Why does this keep happening? And you start seeing the patterns. Patterns of attention. Patterns of trust. Patterns of authority. Patterns of perception. This is where the book completely shifts your perspective. Because it shows that influence is not reserved for elites or extroverts. It's built through specific, repeatable strategies. And once you understand those strategies, you can choose how to use them ethically, consciously, and deliberately. Now let's break down the first strategic shift the book reveals: The one that explains why being right is often irrelevant, and why perception almost always wins. The Rules the World Actually Plays by Strategic Shift. Number 1. Perception beats reality. Here's a truth that makes people uncomfortable. Being right is not enough. Being good is not enough. Being skilled is not enough. What matters is how those things are perceived. Two people can deliver the same result. One gets praised. The other gets ignored. Not because the work was different, but because the story around the work was different. Perception shapes reality. It decides who gets listened to before they even speak. And the book makes this painfully clear. If you don't shape perception intentionally, others will do it for you. Strategic shift number 2. Attention is power. You don't need authority to gain influence. You need attention. People follow what they see repeatedly. They trust what feels familiar. They respect what appears confident and consistent. Silence is not humility. Silence is invisibility. The book shows that influence grows where attention flows. Not once, not occasionally, but consistently. Those who control attention control conversations. Those conversations control outcomes. Strategic shift number 3. Confidence is a signal, not a feeling. Most people wait to feel confident before they act. Influential people do the opposite. They act first, and confidence follows. Confidence is not what you feel inside. It's what others read from your behavior, how you speak, how you frame ideas, how calmly you hold your ground. The book reveals a powerful insight. People don't follow certainty because it's correct. They follow it because it feels safe. Strategic shift number 4. People follow clarity, not intelligence. Highly intelligent people often lose influence because they overcomplicate everything. They explain too much. They add nuance. They hesitate. Influential people simplify. They frame ideas clearly. They make decisions feel easy. Clarity creates trust. Confusion creates doubt. The book shows that the fastest way to gain influence is not to sound smart, but to sound clear. Strategic shift number 5. Influence is built before the moment you need it. Most people try to influence others only when they need something. That's already too late. Influence is built in advance, through consistency, through reliability, through presence. By the time a decision happens, the influential person is already the obvious choice. This is one of the most dangerous truths in the book. Power is rarely seized in the moment. It is prepared quietly over time. These shifts explain something most people never understand. The world doesn't reward effort equally. It rewards those who understand how effort is seen. But there's one final shift that changes everything, because it explains why good people often avoid influence, and why that avoidance quietly costs them their future. Why good people avoid influence and pay the price. There's a reason why many intelligent, capable, and ethical people stay invisible. They don't avoid influence because they can't learn it. They avoid it because they misunderstand it. They associate influence with manipulation, with ego, with control, with people who talk too much and listen too little. So they step back, they stay quiet, they wait to be noticed, and that decision feels moral. But it comes with a cost. Because when good people refuse to influence, less thoughtful people fill the vacuum. The book makes this point uncomfortably clear. Influence itself is neutral. It's how it's used that makes it ethical or destructive. Avoiding influence doesn't make the system fairer. It simply removes responsible voices from the conversation. This is why good ideas lose. Why do better solutions never surface? Why leadership positions are often occupied by the loudest, not the wisest. The identity shift happens when you realize this. Influence is not about dominating others. It's about taking responsibility for how your ideas move through the world. When you stop seeing influence as something dirty and start seeing it as something necessary, you unlock a new role for yourself, not as a manipulator, not as a performer, but as a steward of ideas that deserve to be heard. And once this shift happens, everything you learned earlier in the video starts to click into place. Because now influence isn't about ego, it's about impact. And that brings us to the final transformation. What actually changes when you stop avoiding influence and start using it consciously? You stop trying to prove yourself. You stop over-explaining. You stop waiting for permission. Instead, you begin to frame ideas clearly, to show up consistently, and to lead conversations with intention. Influence stops feeling like pressure and starts feeling like responsibility. You don't force opinions, you guide understanding. You don't chase attention, you build familiarity. You don't dominate conversations, you create clarity. This is the kind of influence the book focuses on, not shortcuts, not tricks, not manipulation, but strategies that work because they align with how people already think and decide. And when you apply these strategies, something subtle but powerful happens. People listen more closely. Your ideas land faster. Opportunities come to you instead of passing you by. Not because you became louder, but because you became deliberate. Influence, used correctly, doesn't change who you are, it amplifies what you already stand for. And that's the difference between power that corrodes and influence that creates impact. Let's bring this together. You've seen that influence isn't about manipulation or dominance. It's about understanding how attention, perception, and decision-making actually work. You learned why talent alone isn't enough, why good ideas often lose to well-framed ones, and why avoiding influence doesn't make you ethical. It makes you invisible. If this way of thinking resonated with you, there's one book that connects perfectly to everything you've just learned. Robert Cialdini's Persuasion. While How to Influence the World shows how influence is built and applied, Persuasion reveals how decisions are shaped before people even realize they're deciding. It's the missing psychological layer behind influence, persuasion, and attention. You'll find the link to the book in the video description if you want to go deeper after this video. And if you want more breakdowns like this, books on power, psychology, money, leadership, and human behavior, make sure you're subscribed. Because once you understand how influence works, you don't see the world the same way again. You start seeing the patterns.